Welcome. My name is Criss and I'm a member of the Nami, Ohio Board of Directors. If we were not in the midst of a pandemic today, we would be at the State House atrium, hearing the presenters on this virtual program in person, and then walking the halls of the State House, advocating for a better mental health system. I want to thank all of you who are participating and ask that you listen carefully to the messages from our presenters. Each message is unique, but all are asking that mental illness be given a priority. I was asked to give this opening because in recent weeks, the mental health system has failed not only our son, but our family. We knew our son needed help. He often needed help, but this time it was worse. As a member of the Nami, Ohio Board of Directors, and someone who is knowledgeable about the mental health system, I thought we could get help. We did everything to our ability to get the system involved before there was a tragedy. Unfortunately, our pleas were lost in the system, and for 24 hours, our family went through hell because of my son's untreated mental illness. We knew to call a CIT officer, which we did. They arrived too late, and our son fled. He drove through 2 counties, exceeding speeds of 100 miles per hour. He was arrested, charged with a felony, and currently sitting in jail. I wish this was an isolated incident, but we know at Nami, Ohio, and we believe everyone working in the mental health system understands, we are failing when delivering to those suffering with severe and persistent mental illness. I want to thank the people in the mental health system that treat those with mental illness, who do recover and live productive lives. These workers are very dedicated individuals. But I will not be silent when I know my son needed mental health care and should never be sitting in a jail cell. Again, thank you for participating in today's unique virtual conference. Please join us in our advocacy to help those Ohio citizens living with this mean illness. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Ohio Governor Mike DeWine. For decades, Nami, Ohio has been providing support, education, advocacy for individuals and families affected by mental illness. What started as a small grassroots organization has become an essential partner for the state of Ohio. Nami, Ohio plays a vital role in state initiatives relating to mental illness, including treatment, housing, crisis, and as a voice of those living with mental illness and their families. Nami, Ohio is also a strong advocate for crisis intervention team training, which prepares law enforcement officers and others to identify and safely assist people with mental, emotional, or developmental challenges who are in crisis. Since the year 2000, more than 12,000 sworn personnel and 4,000 other professionals have received this important training in our state to save lives and to get people the help that they need. During the past year, the pandemic brought disruption and hardship to Ohioans. Those challenges at times fueled depression, anxiety, substance use disorders. The need for the services of Nami, Ohio continues to be great. So we appreciate that the 40 affiliates representing all 88 counties have stepped up to guide people to care. Early in the pandemic, Nami, Ohio helped my team as we provided COVID-19 guidance to homeless shelters, group homes, and other locations serving vulnerable populations. Thank you. Thank you so very much for helping your fellow Ohioans in their great time of need. Thank you for your compassion every single day. And thank you to my dear friend, Terry Russell, for your dedication and your leadership. Because of each of you, we are a stronger, we are a better Ohio.
Nami, Ohio, welcome. Welcome to Nami Mid-Year 2021. Welcome comes from a place of confidence, a place of connection, a place of convening. We welcome people into our homes, into our communities, into our Nami family. Mental health is a constant, as are new reasons to threaten it. And so is the passion we bring to bear to deal with it. Let's talk about youth and young adults. They are particularly vulnerable and are experiencing increases in anxiety and depression like we have not seen before. That is why Get Help Early is one of our strategic goals for NAMI. One of the ways we welcomed this challenge was the expansion and enhancement we made to the helpline. We added web chat so that connecting with the helpline for information, resources, and support is possible in a variety of ways. We are welcoming research in a big way. In fact, more than laying out the welcome mat, we are standing at the open door, making sure we don't miss a thing. Research serves all our strategic goals, but especially getting people help early and the best possible care. Welcome, Accelerating Medicine's partnership, and thank you for welcoming us. Together, we will work toward the shared mission of discovering promising biological markers that can help identify those at risk of developing schizophrenia as early as possible, track the progression of symptoms and other outcomes, and define targets for treatment development. For research, it is our belief that a successful team needs for everyone, including people with lived experience and their loved ones, to have a seat at the table. We are confident that this spirit of togetherness will drive us forward. It already has. Right now, we are also ready to launch a national mood disorder survey with Harris Insights and Analytics, one of the largest national polling organizations, dealing with everything from treatment options, stigma, and naturally COVID-19. Let me continue to address our commitment to partnerships. As of this moment, NAMI has relationships with over 25% of Fortune 100 companies, and this number is growing. Our media partnerships go a long way towards achieving an amplification effect in all we do. At NAMI on the national level, we're expanding our partnerships with academic institutions, starting with Harvard and the T.H. Chan Harvard School of Public Health. NAMI is pleased to join the First Responders First initiative to support frontline healthcare and public safety professionals facing the adverse mental health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. This community-centered initiative is called NAMI Frontline Wellness. Diversion from justice system involvement is a major pillar of our strategic plan. Once fully implemented, 988 will save lives and is a critical component to ensuring people in crisis, with an important emphasis on people of color, are diverted from involvement in the criminal justice system and connected to appropriate services and supports. There are so many ways to help, and NAMI has proven from our first convening in 1979, which was like an ignition, that each one of us has a powerful and important contribution to make. We all can, must, and will welcome every challenge and seek every opportunity for change. I think we have all seen from the beginning of this speech that welcome begins with we. Remember, the reason that we tell people they are not alone is because we are all in this together. And here's to us and to mental health raised to the power of NAMI and you.
I also want to welcome you to NAMI Ohio's 2021 annual conference. I am a former Ohio Supreme Court Justice, Evelyn Stratton, and I'm currently the director of Stepping Up Ohio, a project that works on trying to help people with mental illness get out of the cycle of jail as the de facto hospital. I also am co-chair with the Attorney General Yost of the Attorney General Task Force on Mental Illness and Criminal Justice. And I also serve on the Recovery Ohio Council for the Governor. And all three of these organizations work on the same agenda to try to improve the lives of those with mental illness. From the very beginning, Nami has been a partner. From the very first time on the Supreme Court almost 25 years ago, I called on Nami, Terry Russell, in fact, to help me with this project. And they have been side by side with me as a partner all along the way. They've been a fiscal agent. They've been part of Stepping Up. They've been part of the core team. They've been involved in the task force. It has been a real privilege to work with Nami in this area. And you certainly have the best in the entire country. But also NAMI has been very important as a partner because it represents the voice of the people, the persons who are really affected by this. We work on system changes, we work on fiscal matters, we work on high level stuff, but it's the people who are affected by our decisions whose voice needs to be heard. And that's why NAMI is so important and why I include them in absolutely everything that I do. And I personally have asked them for help for some family members of my own. So I want to thank every one of you who labor in the trenches day after day, trying to make a difference for those you love, for those you care about, for those you serve. NAMI is truly a wonderful organization, and thank you for all you do.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for welcoming me again to the NAMI Ohio Annual Conference. It's always a joy to be with you, even when it's virtual, for sure. I want to thank you for sharing your voice with Ohioans, first and foremost. Your voice matters, and you can see from this list of things that we've accomplished together over the past year that we do listen and that we take very seriously your experiences, your recommendations, the opportunities that you see available for Ohioans, and we build that into our work at the department and in the DeWine administration. And I want you to know that as Governor DeWine picked us for these offices, one of the first things he told us was that listening is one of our primary jobs. And I remember being with you 2 years ago as we gathered in the atrium at the State House for your annual event. One of the most significant things about that day for me was that I got to spend time before the event just listening and learning from you as participants in the annual conference. I remember sitting with a group who were running local suicide prevention coalitions and hearing the challenges and opportunities that they saw to better organize and educate their neighbors and friends and family around the signs of suicide and the opportunities that could be created with more strategy, better policies, and financing. And so this was one of the times that I've sat and listened to the NAMI family, and there have been so many more opportunities for me to listen to people with lived experience, family members, the staff and board members of NAMI. And I want you to know that I take your words to heart, we take your words to heart, and we carry these conversations into our work. And so what you're doing here today, through this learning and through your opportunities to share your stories, will have a meaningful impact on Ohio. As I share some of the slides over the next few minutes, you'll see how that's happening. I hope you see yourselves in the work that's happening. So just to start us off, this year has been uncommon, to say the very least. And we knew from the very beginning of the pandemic that it would not just have a physical health impact on Ohioans, but it would have an impact on our mental health, our social and emotional wellness, and on the use of substances in our communities too. Certainly the headlines really did bear out the research and what we were anticipating. We saw increased depression, increased anxiety, increased substance use in our communities, and increased overdose deaths. And so work has been underway to prevent these untimely deaths, to promote mental health, and to really create pathways to care for Ohioans. You can see some of this in the work that we're doing around making help visible. One of the #1 things that we hear from families and people who are experiencing mental health and substance use disorders is they're not sure where to go. They're not sure how to get care. So we made significant strides in the past year to make the National Treatment Finder more available and more visible to Ohioans, expanding our Ohio Care Line so that we have a 24/7 response connected to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline in order to help Ohioans better connect to care. We also, look for opportunities to improve personal insight and motivation for seeking care as well. Oftentimes people will say, well, they're not ready for help yet. And we tend to see that more as maybe the insight's not there or the motivation's not there because the right kind of support and information hasn't been available or services. And so we're increasing peer support, increasing outreach, increasing access to medications and community-based care, and really listening to peers and family members, youth and adults, so that we can get this right for all cultures, all Ohioans. And ending stigma makes a big difference too. If we can reduce the shame and fear of going for help, we know that that can make a big difference. And so all of these campaigns that we have are working to make it okay to not be okay and okay to ask for help. We're promoting pathways to health equity. We've been intentionally making resources and opportunities available for those community organizations, faith-based organizations, minority organizations, smaller community-driven organizations who are more readily available in neighborhoods to be able to access dollars and conduct mental health promotion and outreach in communities, share that message, make it okay to ask for help and understand what behavioral health conditions are. Partnering for suicide prevention. This is one that really came to the forefront for me as 2 years ago as I came into this role, in that we were doing a lot of good things in Ohio. We just weren't doing it everywhere, and we weren't necessarily strategically connecting all of the initiatives. So gratefully working with Ohio Suicide Prevention Foundation and Nami, Ohio, to build Ohio's first strategic plan for suicide prevention and to increase investments and leverage dollars so that we could initiate all of these new and expand the existing opportunities that existed to prevent suicide and to support people who had survived suicide, either themselves or a family member or loved one of a person who died by suicide. Engaging youth and young adults for mental health and wellness is something that is a top priority for Governor DeWine and our department. Knowing that we have many opportunities to intervene in a young person's life, knowing that 75% of mental illness and substance use disorders starts before the age of 25. We're working very closely with the Ohio Department of Education and higher education and our community provider networks, boards, family members, coalitions to increase mental health promotion and increase substance use prevention strategies within our school systems, both K through 12 and higher ed. But we're also working to build out a student assistance program so that when a family does recognize signs and symptoms and they need care, that we're able to have sustainable partnerships and navigators that are supporting families into accessing care and getting the services and supports that they need so that the young person can have a better recovery experience over time. We've been focused on innovating behavioral health through technology. You can see that in the expansion of telehealth that occurred in 2020. The pandemic gave us an unusual opportunity to use technology to meet people's needs, both people who needed care for the first time and people who were continuing in care. And we're excited to see that level of telehealth service, you can see that in the light blue shaded area on this chart with Medicaid claims utilization, that we ramped up quickly from almost no telehealth to about a third of services happening through telehealth. And then we've sustained that because people found that to be a valued choice in how they receive care. And providers were increasingly becoming more adept at using it and providing quality experiences. We're also increasing technology like like apps that can help people manage their anxiety or other illnesses so that they can have that technology support to help them manage through that. And we're working to make help more visible through the Behavioral Health Connection, which is a registry of services in Ohio that we're piloting in Northeast Ohio and will be growing. It helps make sure that we can see where there are open beds or open capacity in outpatient services and help people more quickly connect to care. And we're looking to use technology better so that we can more strategically understand what the needs are in discrete communities around the state and target resources to support them as well. You know, Governor DeWine, as we were looking at everything laid out for us on day one of his administration, in his State of the State address, he was talking about how what we're doing is planting seeds, and that the seeds we plant reap a harvest in the future, and how what we're focused on right now is building that strong foundation for Ohioans to thrive, individuals, families, communities, in every single way, and building those seeds of hope and possibility for courage and recovery that will yield a more prosperous Ohio in years to come. This was the motto, too, that we used in building this year's biennium budget that's being reviewed right now. And so I'll highlight some of the things in here that are a priority for our department and were introduced by Governor DeWine in the administration's budget. You can see here that we have a continuing commitment to those resources and supports that were already available in the community, and that we know that we need to partner with the General Assembly and support that strong backbone, that strong infrastructure that exists, and then build upon that as well. And that's what we proposed with this budget, continuing the dollars for the communities and expanding some new opportunities and new priorities through the existing resources that we have. There are more than one area that Nami, Ohio has been very interested in and very outspoken in advocating for. And it certainly, you know, has been something that Nami has advocated for a long time, and really caught our attention as we were moving through our planning and processes. The first is the opportunity to better meet the needs of men and women with serious mental illness who are struggling to get the services and supports that they need in a person-centered way in the community. And often they have frequent hospitalizations, emergency department use, connection to criminal justice and law enforcement, sometimes homelessness. There's just a level of suffering that is not necessary. We can help people stay out of institutions, help people thrive in community. And so we're working to build a person-centered approach to helping these men and women reach their dreams, reach their goals, and thrive in our communities without the need for hospitalization and nursing home stays or other pain and suffering that they and their families are experiencing. That is something that we've got proposed right now. We're excited about that, and we appreciate NAMI's partnership in helping to create the vision for that and planning for the implementation of it. We're also working to improve the quality of residential environments for men and women with serious mental illness who are in Class 1 or Class 2 and 3 residential care facilities that we license. We know that by investing in the quality of those living environments, those adult care facilities, that will be improving the quality of life for the men and women there. And that's our focus, improve the services, the supports, the environment, so that they can have the best living environment to promote their wellness and health as well. We'll be continuing our investment in crisis services and expanding that work specifically for youth by looking at mobile response services, crisis care in a mobile way for young people and families. We're building out capacity for a child and adolescent behavioral health center of excellence. We're launching that right now, and we've got dollars in the next biennium to support that work. But that's on top of the crisis flex funds that we'll be investing, the infrastructure funds, and those stabilization dollars that we have invested in the current biennium, continuing all of that work. We know that helping people see care, connect to care, having an appropriate response, either mobile or at a crisis center, and then having that opportunity to get connected to ongoing services and supports and prevent crisis in the future is a critical part of the work that needs to continue to be built out in Ohio. We appreciate your support for that and all of the work that you're doing to help it grow. We'll continue to invest in criminal justice initiatives with the growth of specialized dockets, including mental health dockets and recovery dockets. Also increasing our investment in the psychotropic drug reimbursement program so that more jails in Ohio have access to those funds that help people with mental illness receive the medications they need if they are in jail. We're expanding our capacity in our forensic centers so that we're able to better meet the needs of those men and women who are court involved and have a mental illness, and also increasing an investment, or a first-time investment really, for misdemeanor competency restoration, so that as that legislation moves through the General Assembly and hopefully becomes law, we'll have the dollars to support the infrastructure to do that work. And of course, Ohio's safety net, our regional psychiatric hospitals and the quality operations of those remain a top priority for us. So we'll be continuing to support the existing capacity there. As you can see, we have so much work underway at the department, and we have so much appreciation for your role in carrying out that work, your role in helping us get that work done. Nothing means more to us than our ability to listen to your ideas, think critically about them, match them to evidence-based practices and funding opportunities and policy opportunities, and then work together to see a difference made in the lives of Ohioans with mental illness and their families. And so we thank you for all that you're doing. I wish you the best for this conference, and once again, appreciate the time to be here with you today. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Tamisha Mckenzie. I am a native of Ohio. I am a licensed hairstylist in the state of Ohio, and I am also a praise team leader for my church here in Columbus, Ohio, that goes by the name of My Father's House. I am also a single mother of 3 adult children. I have 2 daughters and 1 son who is directly in the middle of those 2 daughters. We have an outstanding life. I love my children, and I have done great things and sacrificed a lot of things to give them the life that I thought they deserve and to set them on a path to having a great life as they move on from me. As a single mother of my 3, I tried to do the best that I could to make sure that they had everything that they needed, not necessarily everything that they wanted, but I tried to pave a life or provide a life that they could, grow up and move on from and be productive citizens, of our state and of our country. Thinking that I was doing everything right, I was very surprised when my oldest daughter experienced a mental health crisis in the 10th grade year, her 10th grade year of high school. She wrote me a note one day and told me that she was hearing voices and was having some problems with her her mood, and that she was experiencing some depression and had thought about suicide, and that in response to that, she was able to get a hold of marijuana, and that she was using marijuana. So this letter that she wrote to me, I knew was a cry for help. When she gave me the letter, she gave it to me as she was getting out of my car at school. And I sat in the parking lot and I read the letter, and it broke my heart. It broke my heart, and I wanted to get out of my car and chase my daughter down and hug her and ask her what I could do to help her. But I knew at that moment that I was not prepared because of my emotions running so high to help her. So I just prayed and asked, the Lord, who I know to be my help, to help me help my child. A couple weeks go by and my daughter gets caught at school smoking marijuana, even after having a conversation with her about not using marijuana. But at the time, though it was kind of embarrassing, it was very embarrassing and disappointing to have your child caught smoking an illegal substance, but it was an answered prayer, because not only did I have to come to school to retrieve my child because of the school violation, she spoke to the counselors that day and told them about all her mental health struggles that she was having. And they were able to instruct me how to get the help my daughter needed. We went to OSU hospital, and from there she was admitted to a mental health facility where she spent about 7 days, and they got her stabilized. And from there, I had her put into counseling services. I homeschooled her for the rest of the school year. And by the beginning of her 11th grade year, she was back to the child that I always knew. Because before the mental health situation, she was an honor roll student. She was very active in sports and other activities. And she was just, my child who was always respectful and taking care of herself. So now I had her back, and we continued on with our life as we knew it. My youngest daughter, however, was different. And even though I had experienced the mental health challenges with my oldest daughter, when my youngest daughter began to show them, I still did not recognize what was going on. A lot of that had to do with the fact that I just didn't know what mental health conditions were or how they affect people's lives, or even the broad spectrum of symptoms and disorders. So I was clueless. And actually, my youngest daughter, her issues began a lot younger, and where a lot of the things that she was doing, I thought was maybe because of her nature. I joke a lot and say, well, she was born in May, she's a Taurus, they're bullheaded, she's stubborn, but it was a lot more than just, that defiant behavior that finally led us to realize that she's struggling a great deal. I think a lot of it really escalated after the death of her father. So not only was she showing defiant behaviors that were causing her to be put out of school on a consistent basis, like several times a week, Ms. Mckenzie, please come and get her. She's disrupting the class. She's heard another child. She's not listening to the teacher. So those behaviors really escalated after the death of her father. We started to notice, just mood, big problems with her mood and sadness, not engaging in things that she should be engaging in, as a 10, 11-year-old child. We put things in place to kind of help some of the behaviors, but even with those interventions, her behaviors escalated to the point where I had to remove her from the school that she was at. Tried to give her a new start at another school, and we just never got on track. Eventually, she was removed from mainstream classes and put into emotional disturbance classroom. Didn't help. It just seemed like I was at a roadblock with my daughter and her issues. It was the end of her 6th grade year that she had. I really can't even at this moment tell you what happened, but my daughter was put out of school at the very beginning of May and was not allowed to come back for the rest of the year. And over that summer, that's when her mental health really just peaked, and she was placed in a mental health facility because of suicidal ideations. And it was, it was devastating, again, for me as a mother, but it was devastating for the whole family in general, as well as my child, to have to be removed at the age of 11 and have to be away from her family. She was then placed on medication, and we began to try to accommodate, what was a life-changing event. She never got better. She didn't get better. Things just escalated to the point of more medications being added to her routine. She was no longer going out to school. She was being homeschooled. I thought maybe that would work for her like it did for her sister. It didn't. And part of the reason why I chose that route was because the medications were so strong that she had a hard time getting up in the morning. Her energy was she was completely no energy at all. And again, she still could not get a handle on her outbursts, the impulsivity, the emotions, and there were a lot of self-harming behaviors. So again, even with all of the interventions, medication changes, increases in medication, different types of therapies, her behaviors escalated to the point where I could no longer keep her safe in my home. Not just her, but the rest of the family as well. It was very hard and lonely. A lot of people didn't understand. The suggestions that I received from, friends, family, even church members as to how I should handle her disruptive behaviors were not suitable. They were embarrassing, and at times they were very just downright hurtful. That those were suggestions as to how I should deal with my child, that I loved and cared about. Eventually, I had to enlist the help of the Franklin County Juvenile Court to get the help for my daughter. And it sounds crazy. It sounds bizarre and maybe out of proportion, but they were the ones who were able to help me get the help that I needed for my daughter. She was removed from my home. I had to relinquish custody of my daughter, and she was placed in a mental health facility here in Ohio, in Youngstown. She was there 1 week, and they realized that they did not have the capacity to deal with her behaviors, okay? And asked that we find another place suitable for her. The only place that would accept her because of her behaviors was a place in Missouri, 8 hours away from where we live in Ohio. She was there for 11 months, a total of 17 months out of my home. While she was there, she received treatment. They worked on her to help her establish coping strategies, to help with her outbursts, to deal with her emotions, just kind of to redirect her thought process and give her some insight as to what her condition is and how she is going to have to choose to live her life, or things that she could do to make her life better. While she was gone and I was home with my other children and my family and trying to bring back just a normal feel to our family, some type of way I found Nami. Well, really, I'm not going to say it some type of way. I had a client that would come here to this salon that I'm in and then would get her hair done. And she came once a month, and she was listening to my issues, and we were talking, and she was talking about her mental health stuff. And so, my daughter has some mental health, and we just got to talking, and she said, there's a class that you might want to take to kind of help you along with your daughter. And see, I was willing to try anything just to be able to reestablish my family unit, to be able to have my family together, healthy and safe. So I said, okay, well, I'll try the class. So the class was going to run every Sunday for, I think it was 8 weeks, maybe 7 to 8 weeks. And it was from 1 to 5:30 every Sunday. It's a lot of time, for 7 to 8 weeks, but it was the best thing that I could have did for myself and for my family. The class was called the Nami Family to Family course. And wow, it was a godsend. I promise you that I prayed for this information, and the Lord opened up the windows of heaven and he poured it out. I learned so much as to what mental health conditions are, how they affect the person's brain, and therefore it affects how they think, how they feel, and how they behave. And I got to learn how to see my daughter, not just what she was doing, not just the behaviors, not even, the illness, but to really see my daughter and to learn how to look at things from her perspective, learn how to understand why her behaviors were as they were and what I could do to help her. And what I mean, how I could help her was, stepping back. It was one of the biggest things for me as a mom was that my child was not respecting me, and she was tearing up the home and the foundation that I was trying to establish for her. But someone who is working from a mind that is ill, sick, illogical thinking, you can't come to them with logic and try to explain to them all the reasons why they should respect me as a mom, why they should respect the money that I'm putting into the home. She just wasn't going to get it. So I had to learn that dialogue. I had to learn that temperament in order to help her move forward. So taking this class with Nami, I learned again about brain illnesses. I learned how to, again, look at the illness and not the person. I learned how to look or how to expect a realistic future in a better way, how to not give up hope, okay? And I also learned how to aim for better coping skills with dealing with my daughter's challenges that could be potentially lifelong challenges. Once she came back from her stay in Missouri, I won't call it a stay, but her treatment in Missouri, she came back home. And she was able to come back home to us safer home, safer home environment, a home environment that was prepared to deal with any challenges that she was going to have. I felt safe. I knew that I could now give my daughter an opportunity to grow, to heal, and be resilient and move on from the struggles that we had. I owe it to Nami. I really do owe it to Nami. Just the atmosphere of support that I experienced in that classroom. I mean, no one really looked like me in that classroom. No one looked like how I expected them to look as far as when I thought about what mental health conditions were. We came from, again, different races, socioeconomic classes, different sides of Columbus, different sides of Ohio, and we were all in this class, and we all were in the same boat. We say that's one of our sayings, is the different boat, same boat, but different oars. We all had different oars, but we were in the same boat on the same stream, and we were trying to paddle and find our grounding, trying to get somewhere with this mental health conditions. So we didn't have the same outside story, underlying story, but the mental health conditions that our family members, that our loved ones were experiencing, bonded us. And we were able to come together in that classroom and be safe and supported, and to learn what we needed to learn to be able to better help our family member. I enjoyed it a lot. I enjoyed it. It was one of the best things that really just happened for me. And it just gave me so much. And again, I was able to bring my daughter home, and she's home now. And she's been home for 4 years. And she came home and she completed her last few years of high school. And she is now in her first year of college, her freshman year of college at the University of Akron. And she'll be transferring to Toledo in the fall. And I'm just so excited for her. These are things that I did not expect. I mean, I wanted these things, of course, for my daughter, especially, as a baby, you look at this child and you just see so much potential. But once the mental health kicked in our back door and came into our home, all the expectations went out the window. But because of the time, we needed the time apart to gather our skills so that we could come back together and, again, live safely and together. And again, I want to thank the Nami, the peers, the families who have went before me and have had the same experiences and aren't afraid to share them and to help other people grow. So I really appreciate Nami for all that they're doing. They've done so much for me and for my family, and they've given us a hope and a future. And again, they helped me realize that I should never, never, ever give up hope, all right? And again, also that I cannot solve all problems. And another thing they also taught me is to forgive myself, and to reject any guilt that I have associated with whatever my daughter's gone through, not to hold any guilt or shame about that, okay? Mental health conditions are medical conditions, and they require treatment. And once we got that treatment, we were able to move forward with our lives. And I just want to encourage any family that is experiencing anything that I have experienced, whether it's the same thing with a child who is, very impulsive and disruptive, or maybe you just have a family member who has isolated themselves and they have a hard time living their day-to-day because of, maybe the burdens of depression. Whatever it may be, again, we're dealing with medical conditions that respond to treatment. And it takes more than just that individual who is ill. It requires us as family members and loved ones, it requires us as a village, as a community, as a state, as a country to really reach out and help each other. And we do this, again, through educating people. We want to support people, and we want to advocate for people. And that's what NAMI does. And I appreciate everything that they've given me.
In the mid-1800s, for the poor and insane, which today we call the mentally ill, there was no place but jails or to wander the streets aimlessly. So they were imprisoned with murderers and other felons and kept from society. They received no treatment for their mental illnesses and living in conditions unfit for any human. Out of this darkness came Dorothea Dix, one of mental health's greatest advocates. So shocked by the wretched and inhumane conditions in which these persons were living, she became their voice. Dorothea Dix made it her life's mission to find a way of providing more humane care to people with mental illness. Due in large part to her efforts, a system of public mental health hospitals was created. As these institutions closed in the 1970s and 80s, public policy dictated that services would be provided in local communities.
In the latter part of the 19th century, Dorothea Dix advocated for state hospitals' system of care. Hundreds of hospitals were built all over this country, with 12 here in Ohio. There was a picture in the video of the Athens State Hospital. I was there a few weeks ago, and at that time, when they opened that, it was called the Athens Lunatic Asylum, built in 1874. This hospital was renovated for a senior citizens facility a few years back. The people who worked in these hospitals were often criticized for the treatment they provided. I believe the people working in these hospitals were every bit as dedicated as those working in the mental health system today. The people in this overcrowded hospital had been warehoused, but they were there because they could not function in the community without being in harm's way. Now we close the hospitals, and these people are in jails, prisons, homelessness, inadequate housing, and many live with families who are ill-equipped to deal with the loved one's symptoms.
The Vice Chair calls Terry Russell, representing the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill of Ohio. Thank you, Terry.
Madam Co-Chair, and this special committee, I just can't tell you how pleased I am. My presentation is going to be a little different. I'm a little scared because my colleagues are behind me. I'm going to be a little critical of some of the system and beg you, for once and for all to do something for the people I represent. My name is Terry Russell, and I'm the Executive Director of the National Alliance on Mental Illness of Ohio, often referred to as Nami, Ohio. We are proud that we are the largest grassroots mental health advocacy organization in the country. Here in Ohio, we represent over 500,000 citizens whose lives have been invaded by mental illness. This includes those living with mental illness and their families. Nami, Ohio has 40 affiliates throughout Ohio, representing all 88 counties. Each of you have constituents in your community that deal every day with their mental illness or a mental illness in their family. These families are desperately asking for your help. We've never asked for it more than we are today. You've just heard from my colleagues that those living with mental illness and their families rely on the Ohio's mental health system to provide the care that is desperately needed for our loved ones. Although we are often critical of the system, we are never critical of the people. Sherry's boards and Teresa's agencies are our heroes. But that doesn't mean that we're getting the services that we need. Make no mistake, families living with mental illness in their homes provide 80% of caregiving. They have not been served with the same urgency of those in other health care issues. My job at NAMI is to educate anybody who'll listen to me on this mean illness. We'll educate you, educate you, educate you. We advocate, which like we are today, on fixing a system that for years has allowed our family members to wander the countryside. One of the most important roles that we provide at NAMI is to support thousands of citizens who need mental health care and have no idea how to enter this system. When you're a student at Ohio State at 19 and develop schizophrenia and you call your mom and you're delusional, the mom has no idea what an ADMH board is or what a community mental health center is. They need somebody, and we get thousands and thousands of calls just to direct people. And the one that breaks your heart is when the mother says, "What do I do when they tell me my son has schizophrenia?" And I says, "It changed your life forever." It's a hard thing to say. Many of you are new to the legislature, I saw on the list, and I'm asking you today, while you're here, please prioritize mental health. It's been neglected for too long. In 1988, this body passed a historic Mental Health Act. I was part of that group that put that good policy together. We closed 6 of the 12 state hospitals. We had already closed 3 children's hospitals. There's none. We had 27,000 people in the state hospitals in 1957. Today we have 600. One of the reasons that that policy was good, we were promised a community support system that would help those who were in the hospital warehouse for years, and all of those that would have gone into the hospital for years. After 32 years, that promise has never been kept. Many of these special citizens find themselves in prisons, in jails. They're homeless, living under bridges, in unsafe housing. Not because they're bad people, but because they have an illness that nobody wants to have an illness. I've never had anybody come to me and say, I would like to be mentally ill. Never. This special population is disabled because of their mental illness. Some are disabled because of their mental illness, and unlike other disability groups, they do not have the resources to support the needs of living a productive life. They just don't have it. We would never let people in the developmental disabled system or the aging system or other systems be treated so poorly. The time has come to recognize that serious persistent mental illness, we call it SPMI, is oftentimes disabling to the individual, and the need to address quality of life of these individuals currently in the system and in the future. It has become a norm. 15 years ago, I talked to, by the way, I'm entering my 49th year in the mental health field, so it's been a long time here. I told my colleagues today, I think this is my 300th time to come and talk to this group. But 15 years ago, I remember a senator looking at me and saying, Terry, what are we going to do about the homeless people that are mentally ill? What are you going to do? And I asked them to do things. They're still there. They're still under bridges. They're full. This pandemic has been terrible on this, but we accept it. It's become a norm. It's okay to be in prison if you're mentally ill. It's okay to be in jail. It's okay. No, it isn't. And what's really why I'm here and pretty emotional about this isn't new. In 1978, President Carter put a commission together for mental illness. In 2001, the state of Ohio had a commission. And in 2002, Mike Hogan, the director of the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, was asked by the president to be the chair of the President's Mental Health Commission in 2002. And the outcome of those commissions were all the same. I'm going to read 3 of them. This isn't me talking. This is 3 commissions back as late, the latest is 2002. People working in the system truly care about the individuals they serve. Yet the system is fragmented, in disarray, from underlying structural, financing, and organizational problems. Second, the reality is that mental health system looks more like a maze than a coordinating system of care. And finally, the one that really shows that nothing's happened, the study finds a shocking 90% of unemployment rates among adults with serious mental illness. 90% do not work. The worst level of unemployment of any group with a disability. Number 1. And today we still have 90% of the people with these disabilities not working. If Nami, Ohio could have a magic wand and come to you today with one recommendation, we would develop an individual plan of care for every adult with a serious mental illness and every child with a serious emotional disturbance. Medicaid has come out with the RISE program, Ohio RISE, for the 50,000 kids in multi-services with the juvenile courts and with family services. And they're going to have a special plan, one plan for those 50,000 kids who have been sent out of state, who have made their parents lose custody. We need to do the same thing for the adult population that are severely mentally disabled. The goal encompasses not simply address, what the system does sometimes is we address the clinical issues and manage symptoms. But we need to enable people to cope successfully with the life challenges and build resiliency and to promote community living. The new focus for services for those with severe mental illness goes beyond the typical community mental health center treatment. It will save lives by increasing access to community support programs. Me complaining today does not solve the problem. We must look at every individual who is disabled due to their mental illness and develop a plan that provides them with what they need, not what is available. Listen to that. What is needed, not what a 60-year-old system provides necessarily. For too many years, we have focused on mental health system, on the system, and not the individual, not the families that I represent, the heartbreak that I see every day because of this terrible illness. You know, at Nami, Ohio, there's a saying, we use this saying all the time, you can't get better if you don't have a roof over your head, food in your belly, and somebody who knows your name. We have as many as 50,000 severely, persistently, mentally ill, disabled individuals that do not have a roof over their head, do not know where they're going to eat next, and they certainly don't have many friends. Can you imagine any of us? What would we do? We can go into a community mental health center and get all the counseling and get all the medication and get all the great services they offer. But if you open that door, you don't know where you're going to eat that day, or you know where you're going to sleep that day, we've got to do something about that. I will say, though, that medication and counseling, what our mental health system does for the vast majority of those with mental illness that aren't disabled, is absolutely a miracle. God bless everybody working in that system, providing that care to that 80 to 85% of those that have a mental illness that can function in the community. It's that group that can't, that's costing this body, everybody, more money than it needs to. I have a list of programs real quick. Personal-centered care, I've talked about that, coordination. Detailed planning for daily living opportunities, out of reach for so many. We have a model in the DD system. They do a tremendous job. They see a client, John Smith. It's not a client, it's a name. They see that person, they put a plan together, then they say, what do you need? And they provide that. And their numbers are about the same as ours for that disabling population. We need housing for basic services, food, shelter, clothing. Adequate inpatient care. We have all these new psychiatric hospitals that popped up, and God bless them, it's a place to send somebody, but they stay there 4 or 5 days. And then they're released with no plan or back to where they came from. 30% are released to the street. We have wasted all the money that was spent for those 5 days in that hospital the day that a person is put on the street. Right. It's just a waste of money. If we took that expensive money, the day in a hospital, $1,000, let's say, and they're there 5 days. You know what I could do for $5,000? I told the director the other day, I'll get a Holiday Inn room and we'll put 5 people in a Holiday room for a year. Well, we couldn't put it for that many, but we do something. We've also come up with programs. We were so frustrated with people being let out of the hospital too early and not happening. We helped the 18 ADMH boards in Southeast Ohio develop the Adam Amanda Mental Health Rehabilitation Center. By the way, Adam and Amanda, 2 young people in their 20s, both lost their lives to suicide because they were released from the hospital with nowhere to go. That's been a miracle. The recidivism rate at the state hospital in Athens was 44%. Recidivism in 90 days. It's now less than 10. The day they go into the rehab center, I'm going to tell you a little, it's a little off color, it's not, but they go in up to 45 days. My father had a stroke, and he was in the hospital 4 days. If they would have treated him like we treat the mentally ill, he'd have gone out on the street and fallen down because he couldn't walk. So what they do? They put him in a rehab center, taught him to walk. He went home and had a quality of life. We let the people out, nothing. So we're going to do rehabilitation centers all over the state. And by the way, Lucas County, yesterday we met with Representative Capture in Congress, and we're going to get money. to open that within the year. We need group homes. I've been a big proponent of group homes because I think they're families, 5 people living together. At least they have somebody who knows their name in the morning. But how they were started were with people trying in either faith-based or trying to get out of poverty, and because of not in my neighborhood, they're all in distressed areas, all of them. And they were out of the shadows until recently. Criss has been a champion for these homes. But before that, they were given nothing to treat these very severely mentally disabled people. We need to make sure these are quality homes because there's 790 of them in Ohio. We need supportive housing and independent living. We can't even get vouchers from HUD for our people. Can't even get vouchers. And we need to have more than just independent living and supportive housing. We don't want people to go into an independent living and watch TV and smoke cigarettes with a mental illness. You know, get a little quiet behind me. I'm a little sad. I'm getting too emotional. I'll slow down here. We need crisis services, and again, the Department of Mental Health, Lori, Criss, and Teresa, and Sherry, all of them have helped with this crisis program development. COVID, it stopped. Now it's starting up again. But we need immediate access to services if someone's in crisis. You know what that is today? You call 911, and the police go out to the house. And you know that that's not the best way. Now, we've trained more police officers in this state than any other in crisis intervention on how to de-escalate situations. But they only have 2 options when they get there. They send them to jail, or they go to an emergency room that have no idea what to do with a person with a mental illness. We need 24-hour, 7-day care in an emergency room just to cover mental illness. This is the true statement. In the last year, I've had no less than 10 calls where people have sat in the emergency room for up to 3 days. Sat there because they didn't know what to do with them. We need ACT teams, which is assertive community treatment, which takes the professionals out to get services. And we need crisis centers. The thing around this country, we're finding out, crisis centers in special areas where the police, when they do get called, they have a place to take them. If the family is in crisis, they have a place to take them, and it's mental health care. And they get their care. And that's going to happen. You're going to see that's not my direction. That's Lori's direction at the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. And finally, and somebody mentioned here earlier, suicide today. It's alarming. I have a board of 27 members, all family members or those living with the illness. I've lost, in the last 10 years, I've lost 10 family members to suicide. And these are people that are involved. These are the people that are trying to get services. In closing, just before COVID's pandemic started, I took 3 family members to the governor's residence. And they made a presentation, and surprising me, he had the full cabinet there, all of them. A week before this meeting, a young lady in Upper Arlington here in Columbus, who suffered from untreated mental illness for years, shot and killed her father and wounded her mother. This mother and father were friends of mine. This father and mother taught the family-to-family course that Nami, Ohio, does the training. They were friends, and they called me. Now, what do you do when you go to Upper Arlington the day after that happened? The sister of the gentleman that was shot said, anything I can do, Terry. And I says, how about going next week with me to the governor's house? And she says, I'll go. During that meeting with the governor, the sister of the father who was killed told the governor and his cabinet how the system has failed his family. I also had an African-American, what we call the fire-breathing mothers of Nami. They're great. And she said to the governor, I have a kit in my back of my car with a blanket and a bottle of water and a pillow. And I go to the Steak and Shake because the parking lot is lit, and I sleep there because I'm afraid to sleep at home because my loved one may hurt me. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. And I have been around a long time. I'm the old timer in the mental health system. I've never heard a governor look at these people and say, we're going to fix this. I can't say enough what that meant to me, the people in that room, those 3 family members, and then when I let everybody else know. The governor and the budget that he's presented to you is a great first step in keeping the promise. I believe that budget was put together because of that meeting. Now, I don't know that. He'll probably be mad at me if he heard me say that I think how he did his budget. But the budget talks about the chronic population. There's funding there and their needs. There's talk about housing and crisis and funding there. There's talk about dealing with mentally ill in the jails. Do you believe we have so many, 30, 40% of the people in the jails are mentally ill, and some of them don't provide, they take them off their medication. This new budget has money for medication, long-term injectables. And there's money in there for successful reintegration for those mentally ill coming out of our prisons, and they will come out. They'll probably go back in if we don't do something that's so much less expensive to help them reintegrate into the community. Although this budget's the first step, I ask you, be an advocate for mental illness. God bless you for what you do, and thank you for letting me present today.
We can no longer wait. What makes me sick is we all know the current system of care for this special population has failed. When history looks back and sees that we put people with schizophrenia in locked jails and prison cells, walking the streets, begging, sleeping under bridges, in disgusting housing, and vulnerable to other facets of our society, will they question our commitment, like so many questions the commitment of those who worked in our state hospitals so many years ago? I beg you, I say I beg you today to join the Nami movement as a partner. Let us all scream the same message. We must treat those individuals who are disabled due to their mental illness with the dignity, respect, and the quality of life that they deserve. God bless you.
Hi, my name is Luke Russell, and I am the Deputy Director of Nami, Ohio. As you may notice behind me is the Ohio State House. And over the last several weeks and in the months ahead, we plan to make Nami's presence known to those who work here. One of my key roles is to plan, organize, and implement our advocacy efforts to improve the lives of individuals with mental illness and their families. This is only possible when done in partnership with our board of directors, affiliates, NAMI members, and all of you who care deeply about those impacted by mental health. NAMI Ohio is different in our advocacy. We are truly grassroots. Our talking points are the stories of loved ones that cannot find adequate housing, access to medications, intervention during crisis, or long-term day programming or supportive employment. NAMI's advocacy is sharing the desires and hopes of individuals and their families. Everyone wants to be part of the community in which they live. We do not lobby elected officials to agree with us. We advocate for real people needing real help. Many groups seek support for funding that will generate a profit or create a more favorable environment to conduct commerce, trade, and the development of quality workforce. These are all, in many cases, noble and good causes that benefit those we represent. But the funding we advocate for is focused on the individuals and not on the systems being funded. We believe access to the full array of community supports focused on person-centered care will provide the most basic of needs and supports of individuals, and for the caring professionals and family caregivers assisting them on a day-to-day basis. If there were a peak season for advocacy at the State House, it is now. Every 2 years, the administration proposes a 2-year budget to fund services throughout Ohio. NAMI Ohio focuses on those items in the budget that fund prevention, treatment, recovery, housing, crisis intervention, psychiatric treatment at all levels, as well as the needed community supports for all Ohioans with serious mental illness. For this 2-year budget, we commend Governor DeWine's 2022-2023 state budget, which is called House Bill 110, for the focus on individuals with serious and persistent mental illness. The governor's budget allocates dollars for cross-system collaboration and investments in housing that will improve the lives of those with serious mental illness. The new funding for care coordination and housing is about $23 million. NAMI Ohio believes this This enhanced focus on adults with serious mental illness in House Bill 110 is the right approach for Ohio and a good first step moving us towards a person-centered approach to care. The budget makes a commitment to those with serious mental illness who continue to be overrepresented in our jails, homeless shelters, substandard housing, and on the streets of Ohio. As Terry mentioned earlier, the governor's budget begins to address what is missing in Ohio's mental health system, a personalized care, support, and treatment model. NAMI Ohio believes the current community mental health treatment model works very well for 85% of those in need, and we will continue to advocate for funding for our local ADMH boards as well as community providers. Specifically, the governor's cross-system collaboration funding focuses on those in multi-systems needing quality housing, crisis inpatient care, and services within the criminal justice system. The current model relies on a medical model version of community support. We want to focus it on a person-centered care that meets the human needs of those we represent. NAMI Ohio supports House Bills 110's focus on intervention in the criminal justice system to better serve the 20+% of individuals living in our jails and over 10,000 individuals with serious mental illness living in our Ohio prisons. This budget calls for continuation funding for specialized dockets, psychotropic drug reimbursements to county jails, and investment in forensic centers, and additional treatment dollars for those who are in Ohio's correctional facilities. Beyond the budget, NAMI Ohio will continue in on many pieces of legislation that impacts those we serve, such as access to medication, the availability of telehealth, parity in insurance coverage, changes in housing laws to increase options, and other items that increase the quality of care. But over the next year and beyond, NAMI Ohio's focus and advocacy will be to develop a person-centered mental health approach for those with serious and persistent mental illness. We have 3 key recommendations. Number 1, recognize inadequacies of services and the desperate need to make change in the adult mental health system, similar to the development of OhioMHAS for children and youth in multi-systems of care due to their high level of need. Number 2, person-centered system change that will enable us to focus on needs and not what the system currently provides. Third, the cornerstone to the person-centered mental health care is care coordination. An example would be each person with a severe and persistent mental illness having navigators similar to what is now offered for individuals with developmental disabilities. This includes an emphasis on key services beyond community treatment, such as housing that complements the full continuum of care from inpatient psychiatric to rehab centers to group homes, supportive housing, and independent living. Another vital service in person-centered care is day services, such as clubhouses, peer recovery centers, and supportive employment. And lastly, access to crisis services, which includes 24-hour coverage that directs people to the appropriate treatment. The mission of NAMI is to improve the quality of life and ensure dignity and respect for persons with serious mental illness and to support their families. This can only happen if we advocate for a new community support service model that prioritizes community services. NAMI Ohio is Ohio's voice on mental illness, and we can only be that voice when we speak out to anyone in a position to make change. NAMI Ohio has a plan to meet with all 133 members of Ohio's General Assembly. The information and advocacy priorities shared at this conference have been condensed into an informational packet for your elected official. We need your help. Please share this message and your story with your elected official and join NAMI Ohio's Choir of Voices. Please contact me or your local affiliate, and we will set up the meeting with your state representative and state senator to make sure your voice is heard. Thank you for all you do, and we look forward to working with you in the months ahead.